Well, people talk about psychedelics, and I think the whole kind of psychedelic movement is mostly a good thing, but people talk about them like they're a panacea, like they fix everything.
They don't.
And yeah, it's just another way to access our emotions. My theory is that in caveman grunting days, when you had a problem, you had to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, oh, I feel an emotion, let me pull out my phone and be distracted from this emotion. So you're just storing up years of these little things and acting out in ways of just like shaking the ant farm by posting on social media about things. And so one of the things I think psychedelics does is it just forces you into your emotions. But you can also do that through therapy, you can do that through meditation.
I think they're a great way to open up, but the problem is, so people get into a seeking place. So like
I completely agree. And I'm like you're open about your self-explorations, right?
Sure.
Like you've talked about.
Now I am.
Yeah, you've talked about ayahuasca. I've never done ayahuasca. Most of the people that I know that do ayahuasca are not necessarily better people because they did ayahuasca. No. It's like they have to go do it 1,000 times.
I'm microdosing ayahuasca right now. Yeah. Without the DMT. No, I'm on a 90-day microdose, and that's why I'm not drinking. I've been microdosing ayahuasca for 90 days.
Is that like,
for
real?
I'm serious, yeah.
You're microdosing ayahuasca?
I'm at 60 days today, or I'll be at 60 days.
That's a thing?
Yeah, but without the DMT, it's just the plant. So
okay, what does that
It doesn't do that much, to be honest. What it was for me is I was frightened of not drinking for 90 days. I felt a lot of fear come up at that thought. Huh. And so I thought if there's that much fear around it, I should probably explore it. Huh. I've never had it, like I've gone 30 days without drinking before. I've always just noticed it's very easy, but life is just more boring. It's very simple. It's just, but it was really the commitment. I was going into it. This is a big inflection point in my life where I can sort of sort out myself financially and business-wise with the things that really matter to me in a very short period of time if I'm focused. And when I don't, alcohol is my way of sort of lowering my energy. So literally, it's how I manage my energy too. Like having as much energy as I do. Like in college, my friends would be like, "Dude, get this guy a beer," because I would just be like off the wall, super amped up. So when I don't drink, I literally have to exercise like 2 to 3 hours a day, and I just have all of this energy. So I was like, terrible. It's so, and people are always like, people with that energy, like, God, just give me some. I'm like, let's just meet in the middle. But I love it. Like, it is fantastic when you just like feel super like energetic, but have ways to deal. Like, it's not the frenetic energy I had before, where it's been like, because there can be that unhealthy, like, oh my God, I'm just amped up. And then there's like, oh no, I have control over this and I'm directing it at the things that matter. But with ayahuasca and with these different things, what I've seen is similar to personal development and a lot of workshops and different things is there's a book, Siddhartha, right, which is like this old book by Hermann Hesse. Honestly, it's very poorly written. It's not that good overall, and people love it. But there's a really good part, which is the Buddha is actually finding enlightenment, whereas the other guy is seeking. And I feel like most people are in this constant state of seeking. And so what happens is you go do ayahuasca, you get all these breakthroughs, and then you go, you know what, I've figured it out. And then 3 months later, which I find to be almost always the amount of time, people revert back to the mean. And then they go, but it's out there. If I take ayahuasca again, then I'll have it again. And they get in this cycle of seeking. And they go, ooh, it's one more mushroom trip. It's one more ayahuasca journey. It's one more MDMA. It's one more of these things. Or it's one more workshop. Which is ironic when I'm selling the Lionheart workshop. I'm like, I promise this is the last one. Like, you'll have a way to work with yourself that'll actually free you from having to do these things if you don't want to. And so, but I think what happens is you have these very deep, and ayahuasca was incredibly powerful for me. It did very much change things for me. But I also went back and integrated the stuff that I took from it, and I made time to, but I also had corrections in this way of working with myself beforehand to integrate these things back into my life and have a system, whereas the other shit, it's chasing. You're chasing. I've seen people change dramatically from ayahuasca and then just go on another journey and another journey and another journey, and it doesn't work. It doesn't solve the issue because it's still creating this idea that the solution is out there. Ayahuasca is just putting you more in here and giving you more access to what you already know. But so it's like, that's the danger of all the work that's out there, is that it's all already within you. And you just chase and chase. And it feels good sometimes. You know, people are like, yeah, I'm just using it to explore myself. I'm using mushrooms to explore. No, you want to get fucked up. Just be okay with that. You really wanted to get super high. That's fine. Just admit what you do.
I have no experience with ayahuasca, but the psychedelics I have experience with, like, I do not have a, quote, good time on them. I go super internal.
Mm-hmm. Same for me.
I want to curl up on the couch. I usually do. You know, all 2 times or 3 times.
When people take mushrooms at parties and stuff, I'm like,
I don't get it.
This is not the place.
I do not understand.
This is not the place you're gonna get.
I don't understand any drugs that I've experimented with. I don't understand how people could do them at a party. Alcohol, I understand how you do at a party, but other drugs, give me a blanket and a pillow, and let's talk about our feelings together.
Yeah. Yeah,
which I find much more interesting, which I find much more entertaining.
Well, that's the problem, though, with things like mushrooms, is they're introduced to a lot of kids. Like, I didn't do anything growing up. My first mushroom experience, I was 26 or whatever, a couple years ago. I'd never smoked weed, I'd never done anything.
Same with me, yeah.
And it's like, but what happens is kids get exposed to... I heard about that. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, I filmed mine. I had never even held a cigarette in my hand. I did 4 grams of psilocybin and filmed it.
You did 4 grams on your first go? Damn.
What
happened? Where were you? Weren't you at Jesse's?
I was.
That's wild.
Yeah. What do you want to know? I went.
What did you?
What planet
what was your,
did I go to? Or?
What was your big? Like, I had a very big takeaway my first time. I had 2 like big things. Like, what did you take from it?
I experienced ego death, and
what was that like for you? What was your experience?
I was really afraid of it. I mean, the experience is like my brain going it was like that feeling of not being able to shut off your mind when you're trying to go to sleep, times 100. It was like it almost hurt because my thoughts were going so fast, and then just silence. And it felt like I was alone with my thoughts for the first time. And then I remember feeling this sadness because it was like, oh, that voice in my head has now died, and I like attached to that. But then on the other side, there was like this liberation of, oh, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. Like I am kind of this infinite, there's like this part of me that I didn't have access to before. And for me, that went away after the experience. So when I hear Eckhart Tolle talk about how his ego died and never came back, I'm like, well, I want that. That sounds great. But mine.
Yeah, but he also didn't have that.
Everybody
let's
come back to that one.
Ego's gone.
I'd be curious to hear that. But anyway, for me, there was also this sense of, I felt like I saw the world as though God sees it. Mm-hmm. I saw the world like I really...
As it is, not as you want it to be, not with any judgment, just...
No, it was more... I remember having kind of a visual in my head of... I could see the timeline of the universe, and it was shaped. It was like an infinite symbol, and I could almost see my place on the timeline, and like it was playing a part in the overall evolution of whatever this is. And maybe they wouldn't write about me in history books, but that I played a role in helping whatever this experience is that we're having go to wherever it was going, and that there was a destination that we were all heading towards. And that gave me a whole lot of purpose. And
you think there's a destination?
I don't know. I do not know. I know whatever makes us up makes up the rest of the universe. Whatever makes up our consciousness makes up the rest of the universe, and that it is expanding and might even contract at some point. So we're probably all coming back to the same like unicity at some point. I have no idea. I have no idea if there's a point or if there's memory after we die or what. I have no idea. But it made me, it was kind of an experience of whatever. I am a part of this bigger whole, and I'm helping it come about in some way. And that was a really liberating experience for me because it made me feel like it wasn't like my job to figure out my life or to drive anything or to force anything to make myself matter. I didn't have to do anything to make it matter. It was like who I was part of the infinite and part of ultimately what mattered, which I think is kind of what you refer to as enlightenment. It's like relaxing into who you are and realizing that you're good enough and you're valuable exactly as you are, and you never had to put on any outside label or be anything other than what you are. Like, that's kind of, it's like peace with who you are and what is my closest understanding of enlightenment.
I would agree. I think it's just the deep understanding that this is all that is and all that ever will be, and that there's never enough. There's never enough is not out there.
Yeah.
And that being okay is not out there. It's just here.
And that you never had to go get enough in the first place. Like, it was all here.
Yeah, what if you were already, what if everything inside of you was already everything it ever had to be?
Yeah.
I've actually been listening to there's a couple songs on Spotify of Alan Watts speaking that have been like remixed into stuff, and there's one that I'm listening to over, because when I lift I'll listen to the same song over and over, and I have one that I call my squat song, which is The Rat by the Walkmen, but I've been listening to the song What would you do if you were if you could dream anything you wanted to, and it's like on this loop, and then it's like, what would you do if you were God? So I have Alan Watts going, what would you do if you were God?
That was a really good Alan Watts impression.
I've been working, I want to make a movie about Alan Watts. What would you do if you were God? What if you were already enough? Right here. And he goes through, and I've like got the song, and it's like, what would you do if you could dream any dream you wanted to? And going through that song is like, so what I had in ayahuasca was a complete death, a full experience of what happens after this, a complete experience of being with God, knowing what it's like to be there.
Wow.
What happens after we die, how the world was created, which gods are the real ones, why we're all here. Yeah, which I don't know, I don't really share it much because it's also kind of crazy. And again, none of it, whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. All that matters is, does it affect my life in any sort of a way that is meaningful?
I think it matters. I'm just going to be a pastor. I want to know which ones are real.
You want to know what I...
Yeah, I want to know. Go, tell me.
Okay.
Which gods are real, Ian?
Which implies that there are multiple. So this was not expected.
This was not expected on EIVGB.
This on the EIVGB?
On EIVGB.
This was not expected for me either when I had the experience. So basically what happened is I went through, and this is the whole story, but I had already gone through a lot of, this is the second night, I'd gone through a lot of things, and then I was looking up, and there was this woman's eye, and it just turned into this deep light. It was like the first time I'd ever been seen, like fully seen, and I just completely collapsed out of this world, 100% gone, and it was just the most pure white light, like a bliss so far beyond what we can consciously comprehend or that I could ever put words towards. Something that is so much more enjoyable than anything that has ever existed, that I was literally, the only thing that would happen is sometimes I'd come out and I'd look around and go, they all have to know, right? They all have to know this exists. How can nobody know? And laughing, like, oh my God, this is the most insane thing I've ever seen. And so I went, it was probably about an hour and a half of the deepest bliss, just pure bliss. And I got to see, it was like, so the gods are the Norse gods. These are the real ones.
The Norse gods.
The Norse gods are the real gods, okay? And
trying real hard not to have any judgment right now.
You can, and here's the thing, I'm not saying this is true. I'm not even necessarily saying it's what I believe. I'm saying it's what I saw, right? I saw that the Norse gods are the real gods, that Loki created the earth, and that the earth was created as a show for the gods to watch.
Oh,
because
it's a good show.
And the great joke of it all, because Loki is the trickster, is that we're all searching for this idea that there is a reason, that there is some sort of greater organization behind it all, and that we're all here trying to make sense of this world, but it doesn't make sense. And it was started from a place that did not make sense. So the only way to actually become completely okay with it is to realize that none of this shit makes sense. And so when people say, do we have free will? I believe 100% that we have free will, because why would the gods watch a show that they already knew the ending to? And I believe that the gods got so interested in this world that they created of humans, who, by the way, why did they make us the way they are? What is the ultimate gift of them? I don't tell you the same, but basically, they got so interested in our show that they started sending themselves down here to participate. And so I think there are people, I think everybody has part of God inside of them, but there are people that have different expressions of things that are happening within them, and their reason to be here on this planet. But basically, like the next day, so they ask you, what happened to you, or what did you take away from last night or whatever? And I'm like, I think I'm gonna keep this one quiet. I'm like, I'm gonna keep, and then it comes on like, what are you grateful? They go, well, what are you grateful for? And I'm like,
Loki.
And I was just like, I didn't tell anybody this shit. I think I may have told JB, but later on. But I was like, I am just so grateful to be a human and not have the responsibilities of the gods. And everybody laughs, and I was like, I've never been more fucking serious in my life. Like, the greatest gift of being human is the gift to make mistakes. It's the gift of imperfection. That's why if you look at all of the myths, all of the original stuff, like why did Adam and Eve, why did they eat the apple? It's because the pressure of being perfect is too much. That's for the gods. So the humans, we get the luxury of fucking shit up. That is our gift. Our gift is to make mistakes, which makes life so much more enjoyable because it takes all the pressure off of trying to get shit right.
Those poor Norse gods, man. You have no idea what it's like. You have no idea what it's like to grow up as a Norse god.
As a Norse god.
Knowing you gotta measure up to Loki, who created all of this.
Well, he's not even top up there, but he's like, but they're all super into Earth, you know? It's like a really good sitcom.
He's not even top up
He's not top up there, but he's like, you know, he made this, and everybody's like, damn, that's a good show. I like that shit. But
he's posting about it on Norse social media.
The resulting separation from God and from that was the most pain I've ever felt. More
I remember you telling me that.
That was the most pain I've ever felt. It was far more pain than when I went to the hospital and got diagnosed with Crohn's. More than any physical pain I've ever endured. The separation from that was because it was the reality that this was life again. And I didn't think I was back. I didn't know if I would ever come back. And this is actually, so Brent told me when I went to go do ayahuasca, he said, if it breaks you, I can put you back together. And I just kept seeing his little round head popping up going, he said he could put you back together, because I was like, I'm not coming back. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what any of this is. I don't think I'm gonna be human again. And I was so far from grounded that I didn't, and finally, stuff starts to come back, and you're like, okay, I'm here again. But the pain was so deep, like, so, I mean, and I was angry too, because I was like, why would you do that? Why would you show me that and then bring me back here? And so, but what it's really done is it gives me this really nice reality that dying is actually gonna be better. But that doesn't mean I wanna die. It means that I get to do all sorts of fun shit on the way.
It's like the idea of consciousness being a spectrum. Like, this is one form of consciousness, and there's another when
Yeah, and I think it'll change. And here's the thing is, if I die and nothing else does exist, I'm fucking dead. And I don't give a shit because I'm dead.
Yeah.
It's very freeing.
Hearing your story of it actually made me put the pause on experimenting with ayahuasca. It didn't sound necessarily... it didn't sound like a pleasant experience I wanted in this period of my life.
It was the absolute most blissful experience and the absolute worst experience I've ever had within the same exact night. Yeah. And then the next day was supposed to be the nice celebration day. They're like, you take a little dose, people dance around, you have like, it's a day dose, it's during the day, it's the day of celebration. Nobody goes up, he's like, all right, you know, come up and take the medicine. And nobody's, so I go, okay, cool. So I go, I take it, and I go so fucking deep again. And I'm like, no, oh my God. But it's all to the degree that you're willing to surrender. You can sort of stop the process if you want, but I was convulsing. And then that day was like fear, just the most insane amount of fear. And then I saw all of this separation from all of this shame and fear that basically shame I'd been carrying around from past lives, which I didn't know if I believed in. And again, doesn't matter if they're real or not, it's whatever, you know, I saw who I was in past lives, I saw this crazy shit. Whether it's real or not doesn't really matter, it's does it serve my life? And it's the same way I feel about religion. If religion makes your life better, be religious. If it doesn't, don't be. Either way, don't go trying to shove your beliefs down other people's throats. Let them have their own.
I don't know how to come out of this conversation.
Yeah, we didn't go deep.
Maybe we should pray about it. Dear Loki.
Dear Loki, God of this earth.
My only reference point for you is from the video game Black and White, the computer game.
What about Tom Hiddleston in Marvel? Have you seen the Marvel movies?
A few of them. Spider-Man.
The last two are really good. Oh no. Thor Ragnarok, very well written. Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Yeah, liked that. I had to ask 1,000 questions throughout it because I had no idea what the hell was going on.
What I do is on planes, I watch the old ones. They have a lot of them on there.
Okay.
Where do we want to go from here? How long?
50.
I think we should bring some levity into it
Yeah.
on the ride back.
Yeah, shall we?
Maybe do some impressions of people,
Yeah.
like Trumpelstiltskin.
Trumpelstiltskin, my boy.
What do you think of Trump these days?
I don't know. My opinions are. My real opinion on Trump is he is a master influencer. He is a puppet master.
Yeah, he's good.
What everybody sees is they see the guy dancing
Yes.
down here. I see the hands.
100%. 100%.
Whatever you think of the guy, think of the guy. But I look at him and I think, it's very interesting. It fascinates me. It's like when people say, I hate that guy, so they learn nothing from him. Like, well, what can you learn from him? What is he doing? I think everything is orchestrated. People are like,
I think
why would he
a lot
say
of
that?
it's
Why would-
orchestrated. I
yeah,
think a lot
why
of
would
it is
he
orchestrated.
Why would he tweet that? Why would he? Because you're talking about him.
Right.
Why would he put toilet paper on his foot and walk onto a plane or whatever he did? There's a reason. He didn't shit and then put toilet paper on the floor accidentally. It's all the way. He's on everybody's mind all the time. Wow. Did you see what just happened?
Look, here's the thing, guys. Everybody's all about the whatever, okay? I'm even getting into their hand motions. It
Why
looks
are
like I'm
you
sucking two little
impersonating
dicks.
Lindsey Graham?
I don't know. I
While
don't
do-
watch
while
enough.
doing
I don't
that-
know enough. I don't watch Trump enough, okay? I don't watch the news, so I don't have a very good impression. But it looks like I'm sucking two tiny little dicks.
Yeah, it's just pretty much the worst Trump impression I've ever seen. But
I
your
can
analysis is
do
pretty spot
a
on.
good one, but I have to watch him before I do
Okay.
it. I don't watch him, so I don't. I'd have to go practice.
I think there's a lot more going on than people realize, and if you can take your ego out of it, it's the greatest show on earth. But most people can't. I think
They're so emotionally driven around it.
Yeah,
That's
and
why he's doing it, though. He's hitting the emotions.
yes, I'm curious to see how that plays out in the next election. I don't think there's anybody who could beat him, but I'm curious to see how he pivots
I have no
for
idea.
the next election.
I have so little actual knowledge. I don't pretend to.
I
know
love
more.
this stuff, man. I just love it.
I like watching him piss people off. There is probably some joy, and my team's probably a little better than, and the fact that I feel like I feel so good about being removed. I don't feel like it. Whatever's happening, I don't get angry. I'm not getting all stoked about it. Like, it's just happening around me. And
There's the one counterpoint to that is, though, you're not. He's not targeting you either. I do have empathy for. There are certain groups of people. As surface level as it is, people in California who lost their homes when he was tweeting about the irresponsibility of
my
Democrats.
parents had to evacuate. I was out there for
Yeah,
it.
he said some things that I thought were upsetting in that scenario. I think 90% of the things people are upset about, I'm like, oh, come on.
Well, so
it just says
only-
more about you than him.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's times where he's like, that's not. I'm not glad my president says
I've
that.
probably missed 90% of everything he said.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't think that he doesn't affect people's lives. It doesn't tend to affect mine, and that doesn't mean I don't.
Are you even a U.S. citizen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you vote? You couldn't vote. Yes, I'm a U.S. citizen. I could vote.
Not
but
with that
but I
accent.
didn't. Yeah, right. Like, you could vote. No, I have found, though, if you want to get rid of a girl, just say, I voted for Trump. Boom, she'll drop you like that.
It hasn't
If
been
she's
my
liberal.
experience.
I know, I'm kidding. It depends on what I do think that there are people that are getting affected by it, but we can only ever know our own reality. And we all can try and pretend to put ourselves in other people's shoes and shit, but we don't know how things are affected by others. And
Right.
I think that's the whole notion of democracy, is the idea that people are going to vote for the greater good, and people don't. People vote in the privacy of a booth. They vote for what suits them.
See, I totally disagree. I think the premise of democracy is that you vote for what is best for you, but the premise of democracy was not based on the idea that we would be voting at the federal level for everybody else. And we live in this world now where everybody has a grand stage via social media that we expect the federal government to do our bidding. So I had a friend kind of accused me. They were like, Ryan, you're very well educated on politics, but you don't factor in the people side of things. And I said, my background and my education in this, my fascination in this is at the federal level. And the federal government has no ability to impact individuals. It's to try and have a federal government make a decision that positively impacts 400 million people is preposterous.
Well, we're huge now.
It's ridiculous. Like universal health care. If you want to have universal health care, you do it on the state or local level. The idea that the federal government can come up with a policy for 400 million people and us all to be reasonably happy, you're out of your mind.
Yeah,
Canada doesn't even do that. Canada's total Canada's the gold standard. Canada's total population is that of California's, and it's segmented into provinces that have their own systems.
Yeah.
But we should model it for 400 million people. You're out of your mind.
That's the thing. It's just like saying this for my business. It works when I had 300 customers. Why won't it work when I have 3 million customers? It's not scalable.
It worked for your business, so it's going to work for my business. Yeah. That's a different group of people.
Especially with cultures, because people and cultures are different. I'll tell you, I was just in England and France and Spain.
Oh,
I just went to London,
that
Paris,
must be so hard.
Oh, my life is rough. So I realized you can't say that without sounding like an asshole. I just got back from a beautiful Euro trip. But this guy, Middle Eastern guy at...
It's racist.
I know. He's from there, but you can't say that.
You can't say that.
We're in this bar in Barcelona, and he says, he's like, I couldn't go to America. I was like, well, why? He's like, well, brown people can't go there. I was like, there are so many brown people. You would absolutely be fine. He's like, no, but Trump, he goes, and Trump, he fucked his daughter. And I'm like, what? And then we heard other people talking at a table. The stuff that people hear about Trump in other countries is insane. It's literally like, they think he's like walking around with an AK, like just popping people from, like, it's crazy the shit I'm like, you think he fucked his daughter? And I was like, look, I'm not saying he's a good dude, but the guy can fuck his daughter. Like, that's the stuff you're hearing. He's like, they are hearing the craziest stuff. Because the people that go and talk about it in other countries, it's not like the normal, like, reasonable people. It's like in the news and shit. Dude, it's wild.
I think the takeaway from this conversation is Trump did not fuck his daughter.
If there's only one thing we think we know, and that Loki created the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we?
We shall. Let's get out of here.
Let's get some levity.